Is Drake not coming?
He was at the game in San Francisco.
Yeah.
He's got friends in high places.
Literally, metaphorically.
Facts. I feel like we just need to start talking when we come into the podcast, right?
That's usually what happens on podcasts. Yeah.
I don't like the intro. Drake doing an intro is fine, but I don't love the welcome back to episode. It's gotten old for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're just, like
You trying to think now to do most of the podcasts I listen to have intros? I think they do. I think that's pretty standard procedure now.
Some of them, well, but you have to remember on ours, I do the intro with the intro music at the beginning. That's like, hey, what's up?
True.
And then it rolls into kind of the fade out. And then if we intro again, it's like it's a little repetitive.
Are you just trying to take away one more thing from Drake so that we can just inevitably fire him and then, yeah.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it.
Okay.
Doesn't it feel like he's slipping away? I asked him that the other day.
Not only from the podcast, but from other things as well. Yeah. Absolutely.
He's always talked about how he's going to
fall off the face of the earth. Just go off the grid.
Yeah. I don't think I'll cut this part out. I don't think you're on your mic. Oh yeah. Stroke it.
Oh, fuck yeah. Audio input. No, that's not that. Where's my motherfucker? Stupid motherfucker. EBS device not recognized. Why would you?
Oh, it's your computer. Your computer's trash.
You're trash.
Did I buy you that computer? Or is that your work computer?
This is my computer.
Okay. I might have to get you a new one.
Oh. Nope. Try this other one.
Oh, you're off of your internal now. Yeah.
Yes.
Kevin Ward, welcome to the podcast.
Yes. All right. You ready to crank this thing back up?
Yeah. I'm just going to go. We started it. Now, is there a reason? Oh, we were talking about Drake. Yeah, I don't know. He's always said he's just going to disappear and we'll never see him again. And I guess
I believe it.
I haven't doubted that. I guess I don't, would we prefer to have him around the podcast? Probably. People definitely think, we get comments all the time like, oh, I love when all three of you are on. The flow is it's just right,
You can't fake it, right? You can't fake what the three of us have. And Drake is an integral part of it. But at the same time, no, he's not.
I've always, since the beginning of this, known that at some point, none of us are going to want to do this anymore, right?
What if we just end up doing this for like 40 years and then?
Well, and I've thought about that too.
We're still doing it.
Well, as it's become part of my income, and it's certainly not, I don't rely on it. I would I would be able to live without the podcast. But why would
But
I?
you wouldn't be going and buying yourself a fucking Peloton and rower.
Oh, yes, I would. Yes, I would. I mean, I don't have racks like that, but like a Peloton and a rower for someone like me who prioritizes fitness in their life, like that's a couple grand. Like I drive a $4,000 car that's from 2008. I spend my money in other places, like it's.
How's the old caddy doing? Where did you
Oh, the
sell that to?
caddy's long gone.
I know. I was just thinking about that, man. That thing was slick.
It was clean, right? From, being born the same year that we were. For those that don't know, I through high school and college and the first couple months of living in Waukee. So almost a 10-year stretch. I drove a 1994 soft top gold Cadillac Seville or DeVille. There's both of them. I don't remember if I think mine was a Seville. So you
And
can look
that
that up.
thing had some fucking springs in the suspension, man. It felt like you were going on a roller coaster ride when you were riding that
You
thing.
bounce around a little bit, right? You bounce around a little bit. The back seat could fit 4 Ike Butgers. It's unbelievable how big that back seat was. The trunk could also fit 4 dead Ike Butgers if you needed to transport dead body. Like it was an incredible car for spacious reasons, not so incredible for other reasons.
Can we get that an official measurement in Ike Butker?
An Ike Butker.
Yeah.
We could probably we could petition a commission somewhere and get that instated. Yeah, so I don't know. Where I was going with that is if I'm enjoying doing this, and I really do enjoy talking on the microphone, and at this point, the business side of things, the walk-ons as an entity has dropped in the thousands of dollars on equipment and software, subscriptions, and lots of man hours just from myself and you and us putting into this. At this point, it's an investment, and feel like I should probably pursue that. I don't know what happens if Drake drops off and it just becomes I was going to say the Tevin and Kyler, the Tyler and Kevin podcast.
We can do the Tevin and Kyler.
We could.
Yeah.
Do people still listen for the hot content? Do people listen now for the hot content, dude? I feel
like we over the last year or so we've kind of strayed a little bit more away from the hot content.
So this is a question that I have for you because we got a comment on our YouTube, our most recent YouTube video, where we opened up with the conversation about why I'm dislikable, and evidently many people are in agreement, which makes me sad. Obviously, that's okay. I'll get over it like I always do. Someone commented on our YouTube, do you guys ever talk about football, or is this just a friendship podcast?
We talk about football.
And so
I mean, you can't talk about Iowa football twice a week, 52 weeks a year, right?
Right. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm also trying to, in my brain, deduce what we are. What are we as a podcast?
I don't think you can put a label on it. We're like that freshman year of college relationship with the chick from down the dorm,
down the hall.
You don't know what you are. You like each other.
You don't know how long
you like what you're doing, but you don't know what it is, right?
That's an incredible analogy. The Washed Up Walk-Ons as a podcast is a relationship your freshman year of college.
With no label.
A no label relationship. A friends with benefits relationship.
No, friends with benefits is way too aggressive a label. There is no label. We don't know what we are.
Okay. You're an undefined freshman college relationship.
Yes.
It's fun a lot of times. Other times it's not that fun. Other times it's a waste of time.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
It's going to end at some point, probably. But
More
it
than
could go on.
likely, yeah.
Could go on a while.
You never know what's going to come out of it, right?
Do you
That's
ever
what this
talk?
podcast is.
Yeah. Do you ever talk about football, or is this just a friendship podcast? And immediately that kind of hurts me, right? That hurts me a little bit because it's like, well, hey, bud,
What do you mean just a friendship podcast?
what do you got? What do you got against friendship? You know, what's wrong with friendship? And I thought about it to myself, and the first question that popped in my head was, I wonder when Drake and Kevin get asked the question, or it comes up in conversation, oh, you do a podcast. What's it about? What is your podcast? I wonder how you guys answer that question.
I mostly say it's mostly about Iowa football
And that's how I say it. That's what I say
because
too.
that is the dominant topic.
It is the primary theme.
I would say it's 40% of what we talk about.
Maybe half.
Yeah, I wouldn't say half. I'd say 40%. Another 20% of other Iowa sports probably.
20% of like NFL football.
Yeah, and
You know,
then 30% of bullshit. I'm not sure if that equals 100 or not, but whatever.
I too answer, and maybe the fans can help us with this one. I too answer the question, and I think it's for ease of conversation in a lot of ways, but also because I don't know if I have a better answer. I say, yeah, it's a podcast based on Iowa football. It's a short, easy answer, and it isn't false. However, this is not the Hawkeye Report, or when John Miller was doing his own thing, the Hawkeye podcast, or when let's see, David Eichholt does the Swarmcast, right? These are all shows that are
You were going
100.
to hear nothing but Iowa
You
athletics content, right?
correct. It's with most of these. I don't think there's many Iowa baseball or field hockey podcasts, so it's either it's usually men's, women's basketball, and football. When you click play on one of these other Iowa podcasts, 100% they are talking about the sport, the game that just happened, the game that's coming up, or personnel, coaching, information, news, topics. 100% of the time, right? Eichholt doesn't get on. Chad Leistico and Kennington, they don't get on and talk about their personal lives. They don't talk about their families. They don't talk about their vacations. They don't talk. They don't. They may every once in a while 1% throw in this anecdote of something. I think John Miller, now what he's doing with Chris Williams, they certainly have more of a feel like that, a little bit more of their personal life. But the Hawkeye specific podcasts, you're going to hear about what Joe Labus was for how many yards, how the offensive line did, what the defense needs to work on. That's not this podcast. And I think that a lot of people,
It is to a degree, but we just have a lot more fluff to it.
correct, it is one element of our show. And I think that a lot of people come to our show in the infrastructure, in the same mindset, expecting the same product as a lot of these other Hawkeye shows. And then that's their critique on us is, oh, you add in too much of your personal life. You guys talk about yourselves and about your own relationships too much, and like your own and it's like, hey, buddy, it's called the Washed Up Walk-Ons, right? It's us. It's us. We're the podcast. We've always been an entertainment show.
We're not an ESPN show, right? Where we're just going to break down film and talk about stats. We are. If you run into your friend at the bar,
Correct.
and you want to talk about the game, and then you also talk about some other stuff,
right? And you also talk about what happened at the dorm earlier that week, or
correct?
Or if you're an older person out of college, it's like when you have two buddies over tomorrow night for the national championship and you're down in the man cave and it's your conversation. That is our podcast. So please, PSA, if you are listening right now and you are a fairly new listener and you don't know what the vibe around here is, you don't know how the walk-on army works, this is not an Iowa football show. This is an entertainment / lifestyle podcast based on us three as individuals with a very, very strong theme, a running line of topic being Iowa football, because that's how we know each other. But I don't think it's fair to judge us as on the same, like if you're comparing us or judging the show on how it stacks up to Doctorman or any other of the beat writers shows, we're all fruit, but their apples weren't orange, right? It's different. So, there's another 16 minutes of non-Iowa football talk that someone's going to go complain about.
Just absolute nothing. Just nothing got accomplished in that 16
No one's
minutes.
ever said less. No one's ever said less in the last 12, 13 minutes than I just did with more words. I think it's interesting, though, because we are the washed-up walk-ons. It's not just, hey, we're Iowa football. Speaking of Iowa football, there's a guy that used to play for Iowa football, George Kittle. Dude.
Keeps catching touchdowns.
Well, it's Purdy, man.
It's not Purdy.
What are you talking about? Purdy loves finding George Kittle.
George Kittle is a good target to find.
He is. I'm not saying that he wasn't found a lot before this. But if you look at the stats and you look at the last 5 weeks, of which Brock Purdy's 5-0, George Kittle has 8 touchdowns, 3 games with 2 touchdowns. And the other 2 games he had 1. He's had a touchdown in all 5 games. 3 of them have been 2 touchdown games. Today, if we go to the stats, it's not going to show me. Did George have 2 touchdowns or 3?
I thought 2.
I thought 2 as well. I'm trying to find it. Yeah, 2 touchdowns. Only 4 catches for 30 yards, but 2 tutties. And I don't know if Shanahan and them are they're calling more plays because they're like, oh shit, weird. When we run plays that feature George or work in these certain ways, he seems to get open and score touchdowns, but I'll be damned, it's working. The Niners are a dangerous ass team.
They're just an embarrassment of riches there, man. They just got so many weapons, and I know Debo's a little banged up right now.
Has been, yeah.
Played today. He did. But considering they're on their 3rd string quarterback right now, and they're possibly the favorite to come out of the NFC, is insane.
Dude, it's unbelievable what they're doing.
They've got a damn good defense.
Yeah.
They arguably have the best pass rush in the NFL.
Certainly in the conversation.
They've got the best offensive weapons. So, I mean, you really don't need to ask your quarterback to do a whole lot.
I think the Chiefs, probably 1-for-1, man for man, are probably the.
No, you put Mahomes on.
I'm saying they're the argument.
A game.
I'm saying they're the argument of who has a better man for man roster across. Like when you put up McCaffrey, I mean, fuck Purdy. When you put up Purdy, McCaffrey, Ayuk, Kittle, Debo against Kelsey, Mahomes. Who's their one receiver? I mean,
Juju.
Is it Juju? Juju. Who's their running back?
Pacheco and McKinnon.
Pacheco's been playing now.
Yeah.
He's been. I would say they're close, but those 2 teams right there, as far as NFL like weapons, I mean, they run away with it.
I mean, the Bills got some weapons too now.
Bills are good. You got Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Knox is a good tight end. Davis is a burner. How about that opening of that game today?
Dude. Yeah, apparently, like you can still take out kicks. Apparently, that's still a thing in the NFL.
You didn't know that, did you?
No, I mean, they'd basically all but gotten rid of it when they moved it up 5 yards and brought the touchback out to the 25. It was just like wasn't a whole lot of value in ever taking them out anymore.
I enjoyed when it was because it got to the point where kickers can, if you want, just kick it out at the end zone, right? Like we're at that point
Yeah.
in football where if you're an
Mhm.
NFL kicker and you're kicking off, if you want, you can kind of try and punch it through the uprights if you want. So what happened was before the fair catch rule is teams started going to, hey,
We're just
I
gonna
want you
kick this to the moon.
put it in space. Give us the biggest hang time you can so that our cover team is on the 15 when he catches it at the 3-yard line. And now he has to bring it out. And you have to rely. I liked when that was so I almost wish that I don't know. I'm on your side where I would like to see the kickoff be a legitimate have to play.
It used to be the most exciting play, dude.
But there was a lot of injuries.
A lot of injuries, dangerous. Yeah,
I
painful.
li-
Yeah.
I like bringing up. I like the idea of bringing up the coverage team to 2 yards off the ball, and they can only there's basically no running start. The kicker runs right past them, and then they go.
Yeah,
I,
so I mean, I that gives the return team an advantage. Like the
yeah,
cover team's not going to be right there on you. They're still going to be at full speed when they're running into guys, though.
yeah,
They're
because
they're, they're not going to be,
you're right.
usually drop back to the 30, 25, depending on what your team's philosophy is. I mean, that's still a 30-yard head start.
Yeah, yeah, they're at full
You're
speed.
going to be at full speed by that time already.
How do we? Baby girl is sat up there. What? How do we fix that? How do we make it a not? How do we find the balance between it's safe, but we're also allowing it to be a play that gets brought out 80 or 90% of the time? What's the answer?
I don't think those. I think those things are mutually exclusive. Part of the fun is the danger. No,
If you
I don't
can't
know. Some
break your
people have thrown
fucking
out
leg,
some people have thrown out ideas of like you just like line up across from each other like the 35-yard line or something like that.
yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't
on the
know.
on the returning side of the ball or of
Right?
the
Yeah.
field,
Mhm.
and then you start from there, and the guy just
Something like that, and then like the guy just takes the ball out or something. I don't know.
what if it what
The
if it
idea's been thrown out. I don't think they'll ever do it. They're
what
probably
if we
just gonna
did this,
stick with
Kev? What
this.
if we did this? You leave the kicker in the same spot,
Okay.
so he has the ability to still kick it out of bounds if he wants, not out of bounds, out of the end zone. Um, he still has the ability to do a moon ball if he wants. Like all options are on the table. And this would, I'm already finding a problem because this would make the onside kind of weird. You could figure it out, but you line up the,
Well,
you line.
they've neutered the rules for the onside too. Like they're
You're
damn
right.
near
No,
impossible.
I think we've this year in the NFL 2 onsides have been successful, or maybe 3.
And it's
Um,
basically to the fact that the return team was incompetent and couldn't
right.
catch the ball. There
There's
should be really no scenario where
a-
you don't recover an onside
and
kick.
as a tangent, that's a really unfortunate thing too, because I've seen the development of what kickers can do in the form of funky shit on an onside. I mean, there's about 10 different ways that Miguel could kick an onside kick, and he was a multi-tool. You know, he was the knife, the screwdriver, the flashlight. He was when we needed an onside, and I don't even know if he ever had to kick one, but they're useless now because they've made it obsolete. Anyway, you take the coverage team and you put them down on, like you said, um, you give them a gap so that
Like
you're
a
not just
5-yard gap or something like that, yeah.
or 10 yards even. Give them a 10-yard gap and make it Let's put them on the 35 of the return side of the field, and the return team lines up in a straight line on the 25. You can drop from there, but you cannot move. Nobody can move until the returner has the ball in his hands. He catches the ball. Now it's live. And so the return team, they could sit at a parallel stance so that they could turn their head and see the returner and turn their head the other way and see the coverage team 10 yards away. And now when he catches it, it's go. It's kind of like, it would be a similar timing to where in softball, you're not allowed to leave off the base until the ball is out of the pitcher's hand. So they could call you on it. It's a very subjective. And that way, now when players are colliding with each other, even if a guy takes a drop, like if the return team decides to take a 10-yard drop back to the 15, which I don't know why you would, because the returner's got the ball in his hands now, you're still only getting 20 yards from a dead stop start.
Clue, did you ever do combat drill?
I understand, but it would still be better than.
Didn't feel good.
I know. But at this point, Kev, once the guy can go, the returner's also decided which way he's running. So the guy's probably not running straight line speed. He's going to be at an angle. He's going to be trying to, I don't know. It's one of those things where you'd have to take 22 guys out onto a field and you just have to run through a bunch of scenarios.
And just figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they can just, go back to the 2001 rules where you can have the 5-man wedge and just people absolute suicide bombing it.
Bring back Red Rover, right? Just make it a 10-man wedge. All 10 guys lock arms, and the coverage team.
They used to put like offensive linemen in the return team,
dude, and they
put
would
them in the wedge,
and they would just lumber ahead, and you
And
would have
what are you gonna do as a 200-pound cover guy against that? Like,
well, the only thing that would happen was you would have guys like Bob Sanders, and I've seen clips of Bob.
just like
they
sacrifice your body out in there.
They would, they would suicide bomb. A guy like Bob would run as hard and as fast as he could and suicide bomb into the middle of that wedge and just hope that he caused enough chaos where the returner would have to change direction and, slow his speed.
Yeah, but
And
Bob
boy,
Sanders is a guy who was built different,
as they say.
certifiably built different.
Which, by the way, whenever the Niall Kinnick conversation comes up, they're like, well, Bob Sanders was 5'8". Hey, buddy. Your guy Niall and Bob, they're cut from different cloths, huh? Right? I don't know. That guy on K-State, Deuce Vaughn, he's 5'6".
Yeah, he's a short little bastard.
He can. I mean, he's
them legs move. How tall is Austin Eckler?
Not tall, 5'9".
He's not tall, but he just led my team to a fantasy championship this year.
Did you win?
Not the Washed Up Walk-Ons league, but my high school guys league. Yeah,
which is big money, right?
It was a nice little payout. Yep.
Well, hey, guess what? You and me, fantasy champions of the hometown league.
Let's go.
I also we don't throw around change like you guys do, but this year it goes up at $5 every year. A little bit of an inflation tax to the entry fee.
Sure.
And hey, you're getting older. You should be able to fork up enough money to have fun like this.
Was quick question on that? Was your guys' championship last week?
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys deal with the cancellation of the game?
Yeah, so
did you have any players in it?
Fortunately, I had Jamar Chase.
Okay.
He had Josh Allen.
Okay.
The kicker was going into Monday Night Football. I was ahead by 40 points.
So you just got the win.
Jamar's and so Jamar's lowest total all year for a game was 8, and Josh Allen's was 35.
For the highest. Yeah, you weren't going to lose that game. Yeah.
So I'm not losing. So for the championship, it was pretty easy to say, yeah, you won. Now, what was fucked was the third place game for the third place money was the guy, one guy was done and he was leading by 1.5 points. And the guy that had one guy left had Gabe Davis.
Oh, he was almost certainly going to win.
And that was what I told. So it was Riley, the commissioner of our league is Riley. He was the guy with Gabe Davis who needed 1.7.
And he's the commissioner, so conflict of interest.
Well, yeah, right. So he's like, he can't lobby for himself, right? Like, or not with any authority. So he put out feelers to everybody else. And I was like, in my opinion, you win this. You win the money. Gabe Davis's worst game all year, if you take his worst total, it was a 1.8. So he would have won by 0.1 points.
Yeah, he needed one 10-yard catch to win.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now, the other ways I was looking at it was, well, you could wait until this week or the next week that Gabe Davis plays and take that score and just prolong the result, or you could take his average, right? I think there's an argument for just taking what he averages on a night, and that obviously would have been like somewhere around 8 points or something. So all three scenarios, he's winning. And
there's really no situation where he doesn't win unless he gets hurt and doesn't play the rest of the game.
The result that they decided on was they split third place money.
So we did something similar. I was projected to win. I was up like 30-something points, and I had T. Higgins left. He had Burrow. He had Dawson Knox, and he had Tyler Bass, the kicker.
Yep.
Ooh. So I was still projected to win by like 10 points at the time of the stoppage, but there's a lot of leeway there. Right?
Oh, certainly. You certainly could have lost.
Could have lost, right? Theoretically could have lost. So, we was like, oh, we're just gonna wait, see if they reschedule it. He offered a split, or we could continue based off the projected scores. So I was projected to win by 10. So we'd start week 18 and I'd have a 10-point favorite over him. I countered with, we can take the split, or like, I'm almost going to win. I'll take X percent of the winnings from this week, and then we can roll over just even week 18 for the rest of it. And it was like, I offered to take a third of it up front, and then we play for the rest. He ended up taking the split, and then I took a lower amount of the split for the undeniable championship. He's refuted all rights to, or all claims to the championship, so I am the undisputed champ of the league.
It's in writing.
Yeah, it's in writing.
Well, good for you. Since we've gotten out of college, obviously we were playing and had a lot on our plate during the fall, but I've been playing in this league for 11 years now. This is the 11th year I've been in it. So this goes all the way back to like our junior year, high school, senior year. Since being out of Iowa, where I've had more time to kind of at least like make sure I set lineups, basically, I have gone third, second, first, got last year because all my players got hurt, and then first again this year. I've had an incredible run.
We have one guy in our league who this is like our 5th year in the league or something like that. He's gotten second every year, except this year he finally got 4th.
Wow. Poor guy. He's like the Buffalo Bills.
The Buffalo Bills in the 90s, yeah.
Dude, how brutal of a run was that, by the way? 4 Super
It's one
Bowls?
of my favorite 30 for 30s. It's a great 30 for 30.
I've never seen the 30 for 30.
Oh, you got to go watch it. It just tells the incredible story of losing in the Super Bowl 4 years in a row. My God. Can you imagine? You thought losing the Big Ten championship hurt one time?
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Can you imagine losing the Super Bowl 4 times in a row?
That's where I was going. Is that there's nothing, especially for a guy that was on that team for 3 or 4 years. Like that's you feel like a piece of shit. Oh, um, how much Iowa basketball do you watch?
A little bit. I was actually at the Indiana game the other night.
Oh, you went.
Yeah.
So, a couple big wins for the Hawks. Indiana, a ranked team, somehow Hawks were favored,
They
and
were like a point and a half favorite, I think.
they win by 2, and the books are just on it, man. It never ceases to amaze me. After losing to Nebraska and Penn State, they, from what I can tell, at least following the rest of the beat writers, it seemed like, oh, they better start winning some games, and a lot of them. Otherwise, the tournament's not going to happen this year. And I think it's still sort of on the fence right now. But they've rattled off 2 wins against Indiana, and now today they handled Rutgers pretty damn good. Ended
Mhm.
up winning by like 10 or 11 points. Never trailed in the game, I think I saw, and are playing pretty decent basketball. I mean, they were in a bad spot. Now they're in a good spot. I don't know.
Yeah, they started off good, then really rough stretch there, and yeah, I don't know what to make of this team, to be honest
I
with you.
I don't either. Basically, what I gather is if they hit threes and play a little bit of defense, they can play with damn near anyone. But if they're cold and they don't have any energy, they can also get beat by Eastern Illinois. Wide range of possibilities with this team. So, what I wanted to comment on was Pat McCaffery
Yeah.
coming out. I know we've talked about at one point we did. I think it was actually episode number 26 where we talked a lot about the. I don't know if you'd label it depression or anxiety that you kind of
Mental health. Yeah.
mental health thoughts and feelings. And I think that was mostly after we were done playing. Am I correct for you?
Yeah, mostly
Yeah,
after,
yeah.
yeah.
Kind of dealing with hanging up the jersey. We brought a little bit of light to that. I know when we had Brandon Bishop on here, that was a very, very popular episode. For anybody who hasn't listened to that and has joined us in the last year or so, go back and find Brandon Bishop. He was a walk on just like us. He's from Illinois, from the same hometown as PJ Fleck, actually. Um, and he talked a lot on our show about his mental health and football relationship. And a lot of people, it was a very well received episode. Um, to come out and just make a post like that, I get it. The stigma is being broken down more and more every day. I think a lot more gets talked about now, and I even think that there's some virtue signaling on the very far end of it, where a lot of players now are like, "Hey, look at me! I'm dealing with issues that aren't necessarily always there." But a lot of it gets a lot of it doesn't get talked about, and to just come out and like with a post say, "Hey, I'm down bad with anxiety right now. I can't play." That's like hard to do. That's really hard to do.
Yeah, for sure. Um, anxiety isn't really one of the things I've ever really dealt with in my personal experience, so I can't really talk about that, but I can just speak to this and that as an athlete, your mental health is just as important at maybe even more so as your physical health in terms of your ability to compete.
And perform.
Like I remember people were giving Simone Biles a lot of shit because
Yeah.
she just had the yips or just didn't have it, right? It's like, oh, you're letting your country down. It's like you're like basically asking them to compete with a broken leg if their mental health is not in the right state. It's just as much as of a hindrance.
It's a massive liability.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm thinking, you bring up Simone Biles. Would you want to be doing backflips and shit if you were not all mentally there? Like under rotate and snap your neck in half or something like that?
Hell no.
Like people And I get it. People don't understand. I know yours was more, the stuff that you kind of went with in your head was kind of on maybe the depressive side.
Yep.
I think that I went, I mentioned it. I certainly am on the very, very fortunate, lucky side of things. But I have had two, what I would call, I don't even think it's an anxiety attack would be a good term for it, but a very, very concentrated bout of anxiety. They both lasted probably 6 to 8 hours, and it was so different than how I normally felt and how I was normally functioning that it was very clear to me, like, oh, this is what anxiety is. Like, I am crippled right now. One of them was 2014. It was the first year that I was starting. As previously mentioned in the podcast before this, KF alluded to how I was sort of looked at upon at that time in the program. So
Not well.
I wasn't necessarily, I hadn't earned anything yet, right? I was still very much fighting. It was a stressful time for the specialists. Mick Ellis was out there missing field goals. We're trying to find somebody to kick field goals that can make it through the uprights. My snaps weren't the best early on in my career. We sucked ass in 2014. There was just a lot of stresses. And then at the same time, I'm only in my third semester of school. And let's just say that that semester wasn't great for me academically. So at the time, I didn't put all those things together. But there was one week in there where I had like a paper due and like 3 tests all in the same week. And it was a Wednesday afternoon. We had gotten, oh, it was a Wednesday after. It would have been after practice, so it was a
Okay.
Wednesday. It was a Wednesday evening. It was from about like 6 to midnight, and I laid in bed, and I needed to do homework. I needed to eat dinner. I needed to do all these things. I could not move. It was so weird. I could not move. It felt like getting up out of bed was just too big of a task. I couldn't handle it. Like it was a weird. So I certainly have felt weird, sort of strong bouts of that, and then it was actually another time, like right when I got my first job after we moved back here. It was like the first day of my new job, working at the gym here in Waukee, and I was like, I had like hella anxiety about, is this gonna be what I do for the rest of my life? Like
Mhm.
I don't want to work this job. I know that. So all that to say, props to Pat McCaff for just dealing with it, because like Kevin said, he's not going to be playing his best basketball, and it's probably not safe to have a person out on the court if they're going to be hindered by that. So
Yeah, and it's probably the worst time to be a athlete in terms of mental health now. I mean,
oh,
you
100%.
mentioned like the stigma is getting worn away of
Yeah.
like I think pretty much everyone accepts that everyone goes through some shit now. But the eyes are even more focused on you. Just I think with everything that's happened with NIL, it's like they started getting treated more like professional athletes
Yeah.
than college kids, right?
Uh,
And maybe that adds to the pressure, adds to the, you know, need to perform.
Need to build a brand. There's just it's
Mhm.
more on their plate, right? Like now they're like, oh, in the era of NIL, I now have to market myself, right? I now have to worry about. It just seems like there's a lot more pulling at you than there used to be, and honestly, I think you mentioned it there. I think we're to a point where, and I don't know if this is the case or not. Mental health, was that even a term in the 90s when we were born? Maybe. It certainly wasn't used like it is today. You
Mental
go back,
disease was.
yeah, disease, right? Go
Like,
back to the
mental health, I think back then meant, like, people with schizophrenia and shit like
right.
that, like
100%.
like,
And if
didn't talk about depression or, like,
anxiety,
anxiety or being
if
I mean, I guess bipolarism or
sure.
anything like that, yeah.
But the two big ones that kind of fall under what we're talking about, depression, anxiety, if you had any symptoms of that, if you were experiencing one of those two up through the 2000s, hey, you're just a pussy.
Hey, shut the fuck up.
Hey, hey, buddy, get some sleep. You're being a pussy, right?
Pretty much, though.
And like, I just think back to, but that doesn't mean it wasn't around. However, I do think that technology and
Social media has definitely made it worse for sure.
I don't think I do think what you said nowadays, you said just 2 minutes ago, quote, I think we all accept that nowadays everybody goes through some shit. I don't know if that was the case. I don't know if I think a lot of people
No, I don't think it was the case 10 plus years ago.
even go back to like go back to the Great Depression and
Well, I think everyone understood back then. People were going through some shit.
everybody, the world was just like, hey man, this is depressing, right? Like this
I think everyone from like 1930 through 1945 understood that everyone else was going through some shit. Okay.
Hey, look at that guy. He's fucking depressed. Yeah, man, we all are.
Okay? Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, there's a Great Depression and we're in World War II. Yeah. We're kind of all depressed here. Right. We're not talking about it because we're all feeling it. Right. But after that, I think
you heard about that Hitler guy?
Fuck. Yeah, we know, Dave.
Holy shit, man. But yeah, like let's just say the 50s through the 80s, right? I think there was a lot of people that probably like maybe a majority of humans out there didn't experience a lot of depression or anxiety. And I think that nowadays, I think that it's
Well, I think they definitely did. They just didn't get talked about, right?
You think a majority of people still had depression and anxiety back then?
Majority? No.
Like, I'm saying today with social media and screens and all of the I don't want to get too foo-foo here, but like, we've got the EMF signals like sitting next to our fucking nuts during the middle of the night and like, we're uh, the plastics that are in the earth and everything, how I think I saw a stat the other day that was like we consume like a credit card worth of plastic every year. Everybody. Like health wise,
Something like that, yeah.
like processed um, manufacturing and technologies and the way we do things, I do believe personally, Tyler Kluver does, that those things start to have an effect on our health and our mental health. I think back in the 50s, you might find like 1 out of every 10 people would
Yeah, they were just dealing with lead paint
and asbestos, right?
and asbestos.
Yeah. Whereas nowadays, if you ask somebody, have you ever felt depressed or anxious? Fuck, 9 out of 10 people are going to tell you like, yeah, like last week, like, um, I, I don't know. Social media has gotten bad and that's a big thing for athletes. And I think that's where
Mhm.
this comes to a head with people like Patrick. So, um, it's certainly an interesting conversation. Just wanted to bring that up. So there's what do we do? 45 minutes worth of non-football shit to everybody. So fuck you, guy on YouTube.
Hawks
Shout out to
got some new faces, huh?
they do. They do. They're calling it I saw a joke that said this is Kirk 5.0. We had like
He's
Kirk
reinvented himself for the 5th time.
he's now not only in the portal, but he's flipping guys that were in the portal, committed somewhere, and are now committed to Iowa. It's Kirk level 9,000.
I mean, yeah, no one respects the rules like of commitments until pen on the paper, and even after that, it's like, all right, we'll just get him next semester.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just the world you got to fight in, right?
Yeah. So the
It's
other
like
day
World
we
War
talked.
One's like, hey, we're not going to use chemical weapons. So, like, well, everyone else is using chemical weapons, so I think we should start using chemical weapons.
A lot of historical references today on the podcast. The other day we talked about Walter. I already forgot his last name. The Walter kid from Stanford, who was, I guess, visited this past weekend. And in the time that happened, the news breaks that your Iowa Hawkeyes have flipped a Virginia commit who is an offensive tackle who stands 6'6", 300 pounds, named, I believe it's Dejon Parker. And guess what, Kev? The Hawks needed some linemen. So that's a start.
It's a start.
It's a goddamn start. Now, I believe we've also gotten a couple
He's
other.
got a few years of eligibility, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. Now, if we can get. Now, imagine we can get this this Walter kid from Stanford.
Yeah, the Walter kid, he'll be a day one starter.
What if we put those two on the edge? And now we got two tackles. And now all we have to do is focus on making Logan Jones a little bit better at center. And then we just need two guys. We got to find our two best to fill in at guard. Hey.
We can put a little something together, yeah.
Cade might be able to throw the ball around a little bit.
Gonna need to happen.
Caleb may be able to find a hole or two.
Running the ball.
May be able to find a hole or two.
Yeah. I think we talked about it during the season too, but I think there's going to be a big development year for the guys who are on the team this past year, right?
Yep.
You're going to have a full season in the weight room, which I think arguably is what they needed more than anything else.
I would agree.
I don't know. There's some pretty bad mental errors out there too. Well, anyway, a full year they're going to get so much better at everything. A full year in the weight room, a full spring ball without any COVID stuff, a full camp. There's really nowhere for them to go but up from what they are bringing back.
Can't get worse.
Right. You add in a couple of good players to elevate the talent in that room. And you got the pieces for a solid offense. Now, by no means do I think we'll have a top 20 offense next year.
No.
But if you give us a middle of the tier offense, we could have a damn good football team.
Let's play a game. What number offense, and we'd probably have to look at the numbers. You'd probably have to do a little bit of analytics, but off the top of your head, just for fun, as a guess, where do you think our offense would have had to rank this year to give us a shot at making it to the Big Ten championship, having a shot at winning that game and being in the college football playoff? Because the whole thing for Iowa fans has been, well, motherfucker, actually, the stat just came out. Our defense averaged giving up 3.99 yards per play.
Pretty good.
That is the best for a Big Ten team since the 2010 season.
Yeah. There's no doubt the defense was really good this year. So
we also had Torrey Taylor and Drew Stevens, who were pretty elite. So where did our offense have to rank? Where did our offense have to rank to put us in a contention for, the Big Ten? Let's just say the Big Ten championship this year.
I'd say Big Ten championship because, tough schedule this year with both Michigan and Ohio State on it. You'd have to beat one of those teams twice.
Yep.
And the other team one time, which would be hard enough as it is.
I have an answer.
But to just go to the Big Ten championship to win the West outright, like really no questions. You go 10-2 at worst. If they had a top 60 offense, they would have done it.
I was gonna say 80.
Yeah, probably right.
Like we lost to Illinois by 3 points.
By 3, yeah. I think we had two. Did we even have 200 yards of offense that game?
No. We lost to Nebraska. And we lost to.
Yeah, a decent offense puts up 30 on Nebraska.
I mean, hell.
Their defense was not good.
Our offense doesn't even need to be any better. Monty just needs to hold on to the football, and we beat Iowa State.
Yep. Yeah, Iowa State, we shot ourselves in the foot.
If you give us a top 100 offense, we probably beat Nebraska, Iowa State, and Illinois.
Arguably Michigan too, right? Because
maybe Michigan.
They scored that touchdown in the fourth quarter, and it's a touchdown game there.
But even if you give us the Ohio State and Michigan losses, we're the West champ, and we're playing one of them in the Big Ten championship with a legitimate shot to win. So can these linemen and a little bit of development and the Seth Anderson guy and Cade McNamara, can we get there? I think so. Is our defense going to be a top 5 defense in the country next year? We're
We'll
gonna
see.
be missing the Butkus Award winner and Seth Benson, who was damn good. But our defensive line and our D-backs are going to be just as good. So
Yeah,
I
I don't think there'll be any drop offs in those.
I know
two,
that I know this is the game that that podcasts play, but like, damn, there's a little bit of optimism going around here, you know?
right. I mean, maybe a slight drop off in defensive performance. Special teams arguably stays the same, gets better. I don't know.
Torrey's coming
We're
back,
pretty
Drew's
high
coming
bar
back.
already, but we bring back our specialists.
All 3 specialists come back.
Yeah. And the offense has nowhere to go but up.
A lot to like. I think a lot to like. And that's all saying that nothing happens at offensive coordinator, which there's a lot being speculated upon right now that we are going to have somebody else, that Brian's going to be somewhere else. I don't know what's going to happen there, but if it's somebody different than Brian, again, by the numbers, it's kind of like when Spencer and Padilla were at quarterback. It's like, well, if we have to go to Padilla, it's not like you're probably not getting worse, right? Brian, by the numbers, you're probably not getting worse. So it'll be interesting to see. We'll finish on this. The Green Bay Packers are playing the Lions right now as we speak at Lambeau. My brother, and this is maybe potentially down the road, big brainstorm, whiteboard idea. There could be a betting show, a betting podcast. If the walk-ons eventually turn into a network where we have the main show and DHT is a show, and then there's an idea that maybe Kevin does a betting show, matriculating. My brother could be, I think, the second host for a betting show. I think that Zach and you would have some really, really good conversations around sports betting, especially college.
Is he getting into it a whole lot?
He is fully immersed into the betting world. Both of my brothers are.
Do they have a system? They go by units and everything, all that stuff?
Yes.
All right. Nice.
They're really good at baseball and hockey. Football, they're okay. They are plus bettors. They are good at betting. He has a parlay in right now. Parlays are not the way to win money, by the way.
Parlays are a way to have fun.
Parlays are your lottery tickets. He's currently on a lottery ticket that has hit the first 2 legs. There's 5 legs. $20 bet. Bengals money line today.
Okay.
South Dakota State money line today.
Cash.
The 3rd leg was the Packers money line.
All right.
The 4th leg is Georgia money line tomorrow night.
Okay.
And the 5th leg is, and this is where it gets weird, Paris Saint-Germain, which is a soccer team, to win the Champions League, which will happen in June if he gets to that 5th leg.
Okay.
He is too.
Why the 5th leg, though?
I don't know.
He just put 4 money line favorites and then just like,
I want to say that the Bengals and the South Dakota State, they also might have been covers, I think. Spreads to up these odds, because I don't know how else he gets to these odds. I'm going to look at the bet he sent me. So it was moneyline Bengals, moneyline Packers, moneyline South Dakota State, moneyline. It was 4 money lines. It's $20 to win $15,000.
So I'm guessing the Saint Germain team is 40-1 or something like that to win it all.
They are plus 600. They're plus 600 to win it. It's a tournament. However, they are by far and away supposedly the best team. They have Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. And they were undefeated in the season so far before the World Cup hit, and they all had to go off and play for their own countries. And they're the favorite to win the Champion League.
They're
So
plus 600.
they're plus 600. So
Might throw a little bet on that.
Zach, as long as Green Bay wins tonight, and there's a lot of motivation for Green Bay to do so, Georgia money line tomorrow night, which you would call pretty safe, he might be looking at a 4 out of 4 with 5 months of just waiting around to see if the soccer team wins that tournament. And he's going to have a cash out option if he gets through these next 2 nights of probably like $5,000 or $6,000.
It probably won't be that high.
You think it'll be like 3 or 4?
I'm trying to do the math in my head, and I'm not good at math.
15,000 would be if it hits.
15,000 on something that has what they calculated at having a 15% chance of happening, right?
$20. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe $2,000. I don't know. Yeah.
It's going to be a decent cash out if Green Bay and Georgia win tonight and tomorrow. So that suddenly made me interested in the game. I thought that was a fun bet to bring to the table. My brother's going to be sweating a $15,000 bet. Now, if you're waking up and you're listening to this and you saw the Packers lost last night, then my brother's sad. I do believe he was going to hedge on the game tonight and then the game tomorrow and then the soccer tournament later on this summer.
Let's talk about a couple of those games. South Dakota State, national champs. One loss to the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Hey, man. We told you early on. I said, in fact, if I was a good podcaster, I would have gone back to the post game, the South Dakota State recap, and I would have grabbed the clip where I said this team might win the national championship in FCS. Then I would have played it, and I would have looked really smart. You can go back and find that if you want.
Man, just talking about that game feels like a long ass time ago.
It feels like a year ago.
I mean, it was half a year ago, but still.
They ran the table. They beat North Dakota State, who's the powerhouse, twice. They beat them in their rivalry game in the regular season, and then just stomped them in the championship game. Now, tomorrow's game's interesting. I think TCU covers.
It's a big spread, man.
It's like 13.
It's a big spread. Man,
Georgia's so good.
Georgia's got some good football players, man.
Here's my fear is we got the 2 semifinal games to be competitive finally.
Mm-hmm.
And now
Georgia rolls this one.
This TCU just run out of gas and Georgia lays it down and just dick stomps them 40-10 or something like that.
I think Georgia got a little bit of a wake-up call that they're not invincible.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to get a good game out of Georgia.
Is Kevin Ward putting in a bet on it?
I haven't yet because I want to cheer for TCU so badly. I want to ride the Horned Frog wave, the Hypno Toad. Dude, I hated those videos at first, but now I absolutely love them. I think they're hilarious. The one after the Michigan game was, I watched it 3 times, laughing my ass off. I want to cheer for them. My brain is telling me that Georgia covers this, but my heart is like, I'll ride the Horned Frogs.
Okay. We should put together like a sizable bet in the Benton chat. Everybody pitch in like 50 or $100 and go in on TCU to cover.
You just got hypnotoed.
I hope it's a good game.
I hope so too.
For my brother's bet, assuming that the Packers win tonight, I hope that Georgia wins because I want him 1 leg away from $15,000 because that would be one hell of a sweat. But we'll see. There's an hour, a little over an hour of friendship for Mr. YouTube guy. He can suck it. Him and Walmart guy, they can hang out together.
Walmart guy. What a guy.
We I plan on bringing on some of the guys who just graduated. They are in a week right now where they're 8 days out of the bowl game. Many of them are still taking their own vacations before they come back for the, they start training for the league, or they're setting up and getting ready to go. And some of those guys will go and train at different facilities in different cities. Um, so I'm giving them a little bit of space, a little bit of time, but give it another podcast or two, and we're going to start trying to get on some guests in the meantime. Um, or we're going to get them on the show. In the meantime, I'm not sure what we'll talk about. Maybe it will be friendship. Maybe it will be
F is for friends who do stuff together.
U is for you and me. N is for anywhere, anytime at all down here in the deep blue sea.
I'm glad we all remember that one. F is for fire that burns down the whole village.
U is for uranium bombs.
N is for no survivors. Plankton was based.
I think Plankton had some depression. We'll leave it at that. Thanks for listening to, I don't know, 384, 385, something like that. We'll talk to you next time.